Hello, I am the Flawless Walrus, and welcome to another Death Battle prediction video. But first, we have the Battle of the Goodest Boys. We have Courage versus Scooby. Now, this is one of those fights that I absolutely cannot say that went exactly as I expected it to. Ties on Death Battle is something that historically just doesn't happen anymore, because it's almost impossible for there to be a true stalemate in Death Battle. Someone's going to have a slight advantage in some regard. If speed and strength are tied, you go to the tertiary stats. You go to intelligence, tactics. Abilities become a lot more relevant, and someone's going to have some ability to put the other down. Now, in this case, they just kind of could resist basically everything the other could do. One thing that I've seen brought up a fair amount is if Scooby could simply take the dark matter meteor or destroy it, because they are things that he is aware of. But apparently, Courage would be able to escape the chest of demons without it. And as far as neither being able to destroy the other's soul, it becomes a bit of an argument as to whether or not simply physically interacting with a ghost and being able to destroy it would be tantamount to being able to attack a person and hit their soul immediately. Because simply the fact that Courage can recover from essentially any physical damage means that it's basically stuck in a state where his soul wouldn't actually manifest, if that makes sense. So it's kind of honestly a toss-up in that regard. I was absolutely down with there being a tie in this case, and the animation was somehow one of the best ones this season. The episodes that are ending up being some of the best ones out there this season are very surprising ones, and this is near the top of the pile. It just had so much personality. It took the fact that they're friends and actually made it a part of the fight, because they were talking to each other during the fight, and like knew each other by name and everything like that. It was just really entertaining to watch. They had both of the gags that they needed to. I was honestly shocked partway through when they tossed in the Ziberinsky triangle, like, halfway through the fight, and I was like, oh, Scooby's in trouble if they're already pulling that one out. So, yeah, we ate good. That's not to mention the Columbo reference, the Asura's Wrath reference, which, that was a hell of a moment. Fucking Scooby getting the size of a goddamn country and just slamming down. This is just such a treat for a Death Battle, because I feel like the only people who are coming away from this one upset are the people who are kind of demanding that they get a firm answer. This isn't like, some people have said that it's a joke fight, and I don't necessarily agree with that sentiment, because a joke fight implies that this was the result that they were going with from the beginning. A joke fight is something like Sega de Sanchiro versus Chuck Norris, where if you really look at the feats, and like the Chuck Norris jokes, for example, nothing Sega de Sanchiro has actually compares to it, but they kind of just went in with the intention of it being a tie. So I think this is actually Death Battle's first true tie, because the one for like Pinkie Pie versus Deadpool, that one, it's just kind of them being like, oh, they're just not gonna fight, so it's not really a tie. That one's more of a like no contest than a tie. This is well and truly, they looked at everything, and when these two can't put each other down for good, it's an eternal stalemate. Which basically puts that on the menu for when there are some of the other fights that are so close so as to be stalemates down the line, like any of the like Looney Tunes versus Disney ones, like Mickey versus Bugs, for example, Wile E. Coyote versus Tom Cat, and then this also puts it on the radar for when, if they eventually do 682 versus Doomsday. It's not one that I'm particularly keen on, because I'm not huge on SCP in Death Battle, but this does at least put them into the state where it's like, hey, neither can kill each other, it's a tie. it legitimizes the argument in the run-up to the episode, at least. So anyway, 5 minutes in, we'll finally get to the next time, which, to be frank, I'm not terribly excited for. Rick from Rick and Morty versus the Doctor from Doctor Who. We have a couple of reasons why I'm not a huge fan. Is because, one, I'm not particularly into Doctor Who. What episodes I have seen, I've been like, hey, that was pretty good. Like, I've enjoyed it. I've heard it referred to as British One Piece because of how just long-running and crazy it is. Which, you know what, that's pretty apt. It says a lot about how many episodes of a show there are when there's like 97 episodes of missing content. Like, they just don't exist anymore. And that's not a huge chunk of the show. So that really says a lot. And then the issue with this one is more the Rick and Morty side. I've never really been into Rick and Morty. What clips I've seen have not been funny, and especially the clips leading in the run-up to the show that have been passed around Discord and stuff have made me pretty firmly dislike the show, I would definitely say. But then all the better for the fact that, yeah, Rick gets his ass beat. He has such a strong reliance on technology that the sonic screwdriver in this case is just going to kind of fucking get him. He can improvise to slightly adapt, but he's not going to be nearly as up to snuff with what he has to improvise as compared to his best shit. We also come to the fact that Rick can't really kill the Doctor in any permanent sense. In order to kill a Time Lord, you would essentially need to kill them at every single moment they have ever existed. And that is not like killing someone across the multiverse, which is something that the Doctor can do, which that's going to be relevant to killing Rick permanently. Because what you have to do is you have to temporally and spatially kill them. So it's not just killing all of the Doctors that have existed, it's killing all of them at every point in time that each one existed. Now, that's a bonkers kill method. And then you get to the point where a kill method was essentially that you could kill them during regeneration, and that would do the trick. But then that retroactively became that a robot was swapped in, and that's what died. So that method of killing a Time Lord isn't even valid anymore. Because of the fact that it's just, we have never actually seen that be a method of killing one. Them switching in the robot was essentially part of why the Doctor is so hard to kill in any given moment individually, too, because of the fact that other times of the Doctor will essentially interfere and move in to try to make it so that at that moment the Doctor never died to begin with. So you essentially have to kill them in a way that the other Doctors can't, and I say other Doctors, but it's themselves, can't just come in, change it, swap them out, or kill you before you can kill him. So it's just such a nutty thing to wrap your mind around as to how you would permanently put him down. But the kicker is, we don't have to ponder that too much because the Doctor has the answer to that. He has something called the moment. Now, I don't know terribly much about Doctor Who. I've mostly just been looking into what other people have talked about, so anything that's particularly egregious or incorrect, that would be the reason why. So what the moment is, basically, is it's a weapon that was made to be able to end the war between Daleks and Time Lords by killing every Dalek and Time Lord at every point in time that they have existed. That is essentially what he has, and what he can just kind of pull out on Rick at this point, because the moment it was kept in the TARDIS at somewhere at some point. So it's something that he would have access to basically just be able to win right there with that. So we essentially have the situation where Rick doesn't have any solid win con. Half of his technology just gets shut down by the sonic screwdriver, and then he just has the person who he's facing has the perfect means to take him out. So I just don't really see this one as being very debatable. But I'm ultimately fine with that. We're also getting 2 hand-drawn episodes in a row, so that's kind of neat. From what we saw in the preview, it looked pretty solid. We're kind of leading right off with part of the reason why I don't like Rick and Morty as much. It kind of uses, like, swearing as a replacement for comedy, as opposed to actually being comedy. And yeah, so I am not terribly invested, but hey, we're getting one of the most famous characters in TV on Death Battle, so that's always nice. Immediately after we got the same thing with Scooby-Doo, so yep, I'm down with that. We have 2 more episodes this season, so it's going to be a bit of a interesting case as to what we end up getting to round out what is, I think, unquestionably the best season of Death Battle that we've had. They just haven't missed. The worst episode this season is, like, Ant-Man versus Atom, or, like, Raven versus Phoenix, which, to be fair, both of those are probably only lukewarm receptions because of the Marvel versus DC fatigue. In and of themselves, they're perfectly serviceable episodes, and, like, yeah, that's kind of the peak of the pile there for how bad, quote-unquote, this season has been. And it's, I would say that both of those episodes are solid 7.5s out of 10 each. So, yeah, this season is absolutely putting so much of the show to shame. Yeah, and I will see you guys for the next one when we find out what we have coming up next.